Whether your beer is in a bottle, can, or glass, kick back and relax. It's Better on Draft.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 336 of the Better on Draft podcast. My name is Ken. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. Of course, we are live Friday, 7:15 p.m. Eastern, over on Facebook, not TikTok yet, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, Kick, some other places, probably Twitter. I think we're even live on Twitter. So join us if you want to join us in the chat. Of course, if you're listening via the podcast, you can always check out the video on demand at youtube.com/betterondraft. And if you're listening via the video on our YouTube or Facebook page, of course, you can check out our podcast and subscribe, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your subscriptions. Let's go over through the hosts. Wendy will be joining us in just a few minutes, but I wanted to get going. Dan, what are you drinking over there?
Hey, all right. So I've got a barrel-aged Speedway Stout tonight. And then if that isn't enough, I've got a Midnight Run Coffee Stout from 12 West.
Ken is muted.
And Rob, what are you drinking over there?
This is a new thing that he does.
I have day 21 of my advent calendar, a New Glarus Wisconsin Belgian Red, one of my absolute favorite beers. It is just beautiful.
Almost caught up. You're one day behind.
Almost caught up.
You can get there for the news segment. We got Wendy cracking open her can. Wendy, what do you got over there?
I have a Trogs Mad Elf, shocker, but I also have a Creature Comfort Tropicalia.
Well, for me, I am going a little light today, just one beer, but that is a 2023 Bourbon County, as I am going to be getting some more from Chicago tomorrow, including a handful of the variants that I am excited to pick up. With that in mind, no guest in studio today, as it is the holidays, and many of our guests are, getting ready for the holidays, throwing holiday parties. So we're just kind of doing a nice little roundtable chat. And I wanted to kind of go over some different topics today. And there was one thing that we wanted to talk about, which was beer traditions. We've kind of talked about, special things. We have our inside jokes. We talk to each other. Obviously, myself and Dan have known each other for a very long time. I've known Wendy for a decent amount of time now through the beer industry, and Rob, you're brand new. But what are some, brand new to Better on Draft, I should say. What are some beer traditions or traditions around beer that you celebrate or that you utilize? And I'm going to start with Wendy, because I feel like there might be a good amount that she has from all of the different releases and parties that she does with the Detroit Draft Divas, and everything like that.
Well, the Divas usually get together for Christmas at some point. And a couple years ago, right after COVID, we changed it up a little bit, and we did a sock exchange. So you had to get a pair of Christmas themed socks, and one of the socks gets stuffed with beer. The other sock gets stuffed with whatever you want to put in there. And I thought that was really fun. That's a good time. And I love crazy socks. So, it's the best of all worlds, in my opinion. So that's the one that comes to mind first when I think of Christmas traditions.
Well, not even necessarily Christmas traditions. What about just like regular beer traditions? There's a lot of people who go to Three Floyds Day or Four Elf Day or, different release parties over at Drafting Table, like here in Michigan or Ascension, or there was that one place in Florida where like the line was so long, it was getting into the subdivision and the people were calling the cops. Is there a beer release party or a tradition that you used to go to, or you still go to, or you want to start going back to, maybe even a festival?
No Rules Day for sure. I love that beer more than anything. It's so delicious. So I miss going and standing in line. Though the last time I went and stood in line for it, I was not as prepared as I thought I was, because I left my boots in the car back here. So I was standing with a pair of Converse with a hole in the bottom that I didn't know was there until I was standing in the water on a freezing cold day, and I had lost my hat the night before. So I was woefully unprepared for a freezing cold, no rules day. Luckily, my beer fairy is very lenient with me and didn't mind that I went and sat inside for a little while they stood in line.
So what is No Rules Day?
No Rules is the release of Perrin's No Rules.
Okay.
Technically, it's the only time you can get it unless it's on draft someplace. And there's really just no rules. Like, you can buy as many as you want. So you could go and pick up a whole truckload, or you could go and pick up one or two, but you're all standing in the same line.
Ah, gotcha.
I know Dan was
So is
kind
it
of
like how
chuckling.
there's no laws? There's no rules. So there's no rules while you're drinking. No rules.
There are no rules. When No Rules Day started, there was a guy who would rent a truck, go to Perrin, and would actually like not beer ferry, but be the what's the
Mule
thing?
it.
Mule it. Yeah, he would mule the beer back to the east side of the state. And this guy would buy literally pallets worth of No Rules to bring back to the state. And he never upcharged or anything like that. He never charged, you paid for what it was, whatever the beer was plus tax. That's it. And it was so crazy to see some of those photos of this guy and all the work he would do with Perrin, obviously, to facilitate this purchase. But this is one of those things where people would wait in line. The first person would always get a bowling ball as their prize to be the first person in line, because it's a reference to the Big Lebowski. There's no rules in Vietnam, which is why it's like a Vietnamese imperial porter, according to Bill Carney. And he has a much larger one. I don't know if this is, there it is. Hey, no rules are followed throughout the creation of the product. The gigantic 15% Imperial Porter is deceptively smooth and subtly sweet, with layers of flavor that seem to never end. Some say it tastes like a Mounds candy bar that's been dipped over and over again in rich chocolate and soaked in bourbon. Other people find flavors of coconut, cinnamon, toffee, vanilla, and coffee, and they would also be correct. The beer is special, and there's a reason why it's named as the top beer in, and it looks like it got cut off. So I'm guessing top beer in the U.S., top beer in the world.
The Vietnamese porter category. It's the best Vietnamese beer out there.
It beat out two other beers.
That's right. That sounds like fun.
So actually, when Better on Draft sent me to the Beers Without Beards Festival in Maine, that was the day of No Beers release. And I actually stopped in the middle of the festival to order my No Rules so that I could go and pick it up later.
Well, so the all No Rules orders were on site. I don't think there was pre-orders. It was you just show up and buy. So people would have to wait in line. Huge party would ensue. We went in 2019, I believe, as Better on Draft, myself, Matt, Rob, and Nick. And the four of us went through the entire process, and we saw all of the, cached bottles in line and cups and stuff. I'm like, this has got to be so annoying to have to clean up after all these messy people. The lack of foresight to have garbage cans for bottles and cans and stuff, and garbage cans for plastics and stuff on Perrin's side is probably their fault, as I victim blame them there. But the event itself is a lot of fun. They do a lot of releasing of older kegs of No Rules that you get to try. When we went, there was a cigar roller there. And then I also believe me and Matt tried to do foaling, and like when we went to Eastern Market and played bags and got our asses kicked, we also got our asses kicked in foaling too.
So I got a great idea for this.
What's that?
For No Rules. We're going to start a GoFundMe next year. We're going to be first in line and buy every single bottle available and let everyone watch us dump it out down the drain.
I feel like you had people like maybe willing to donate up until that last part, Dan.
What, pouring it down the drain? Why?
Yeah.
I would never let that happen. Are you kidding? I underbuy every year, and I feel like I overbuy. I underbuy every stinking year. I get to that last bottle, and I'm like, I did not think this through.
I thought it'd be a good idea. We'd be famous.
Yes.
Forever.
What about you, Rob? Do you have any beer traditions that you do out in Indiana, or things that are kind of a yearly reoccurrence?
So as a Christmas tradition, ever since my kids were small, and this is one I guess my wife brought with her, we would leave out cookies for Santa, but with a beer, because Santa likes beer. So that was always nice. But so the no rules, my group, well, one person in my group and we used to go to Beer Brewery, BIER. It's on the east side of Indianapolis. Really good stuff. One of the older craft breweries in the area too. But they have an annual release, which I think is tomorrow, if I remember right, for Sanitarium, which was a quad. It's a quad that's won gold medal at GABF a few times. It's really, really delicious. And so we'd go and would stand in line, but it's not festive. It was kind of boring and transactional. But if you go later in the day, then that's when all the regulars are there and they've started drinking and they're sitting around having a good time. But it's on the east side of town, so we have to drive back. So you don't want to sit around drinking a quad and then have to drive back. I don't think Uber was even a thing back then. So that was a tradition that we had. We did that a few times, but then they started making more and more Sanitarium. So I'm not even going to go over there tomorrow and pick one up. I'll just wait until the next time I'm in that area of town and pick one up then. But we had a local brewery for a little while. It was open for almost 2 years. They didn't quite make their second anniversary. And in about 9 months in, they released their first barrel-aged beer, and they were having a great big, release party for it. It's called Glorious Destruction. And me and my crews, we were there all the time at this brewery. I think I was keeping them in business. And so for the Glorious Destruction release, I was talking to the owners, and I said, hey, I'd like to do a big old line out front. You guys okay with that? And they said, yeah, that sounds great. That's wonderful. And so we showed up a few hours early, 3 or 4 hours early, and started our line then. And started a graveyard, and they, the owners were getting all their stuff ready, and they'd come out and they'd share beers with us. They'd bring beers out to share with us that people had given them, and we'd share whatever we were drinking with them. And people would come and buy their Glorious Destruction, and then they'd leave and they'd come back to come bring us beer in the line and share beers too. So it ended up, there were quite a few of us at various times just out there drinking beers. We got to do that twice. The second time was March 2020, right before everything shut down for COVID. And it was also their last week in business. They had pre-announced that. So it was very sad. But it was going to be a tradition.
The few times that I've ever done the wait in line for a beer, I've always wanted, I just more appreciated the camaraderie with everyone that is in drinking the beer. It's almost like a tailgate to an event, like you're tailgating for the beer release, so you're drinking before you drink, which is kind of like going to a football game where you drink before you drink. The last time that I did it, though, it was so long ago, and it was a Kunin, and it was some solstice release party. And I remember just waiting in line, and it was right before I think Pipe and Brock started talking to me about the laws in Michigan. So doing that type of line and tailgate is actually illegal in Michigan. To the point where if someone decides from the police or whatever to call, that brewery could lose their brewer's license or have it get suspended, or lose their alcohol license, their serving license. So there's a lot of, once I heard that, I stopped doing it. I stopped partaking in those kinds of things just because I don't want to, just my luck. It's going to be, the guy from Better on Draft is the one we saw at the beer release party that got broken up by the cops.
Yeah, don't worry. That would be me if anyone got caught doing that. So you're safe.
So yeah, I did not want to. One, I didn't want to get the brewery in trouble as much as some breweries like Ascension and a few other breweries don't, they don't mind it. just kind of let it happen. They understand the responsibilities and the possibilities that might happen for them allowing it. So I just personally stopped it, whether they liked it or not, and I'll just go get the beers when I want to get the beers. But I think as we've grown up through this show, I just don't necessarily look around and chase beers anymore. Like I saw more Bourbon County on the shelf this year than I have in most years, and it might be because of the pricing of some of these. I saw regular yesterday or 2 days ago for $18.99, and I'm like, oh no, thank you. I'm not going to spend 19 or 20 bucks after tax on a regular Goose Island beer.
I will say in Indiana, doing the line share outside of the brewery is allowed here. It's we don't have open container laws like that. But if we took them inside, that would be a problem.
Yeah, I wonder what it would be like for at least the breweries that are in social districts now, like your Urban Rest downtown Ferndale, or oh my God, Royal Oak Brewery and Royal Oak. So those might be a little bit different, but at least prior to us having those social districts, that was the law, and that was definitely a no-no.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to be the one who shuts down a brewery either.
Dan, what about you? Anything that you like to do, or maybe family traditions that you have that involve beer, whiskey, alcohol in some realm?
Well, the only tradition family-wise is usually the Christmas morning Bloody Marys, back when my both of my parents were still around. The only real tradition I have these days is still Black Friday, going to somewhere that they tap BCBS, because there's nothing quite like being able to go get it on draft, and it's usually not around for too long. I noticed you mentioned, still being able to find it. That's everywhere. It doesn't sell like it used to. I feel like they don't even send out as much anymore, but like I can still go to Total Wine and get all the variants except for the 2-year one, at least out here. Those are pretty limited and are gone. But yeah, I really like a noon, 12 o'clock, 1 p.m. on a Friday, going out where somewhere has it tapped and just enjoying a couple of glasses of that while you can actually get it on draft.
I've been enjoying how a lot of breweries have embraced Black Friday as kind of like their big release day for specific beers, or at least having some type of release. Like Oddside does it. There's a few others that are just really like blanking in my mind right now, but I know Oddside always does the Pigeon Hill. Yes.
They usually have an awesome
your mom on French toast usually, or grandma on French toast.
That's when you can get their Mug Club membership too, and that their Mug Club membership always comes with a really awesome gift every year.
I have been a Mug Club member once for 1 year, and that's it.
At Pigeon Hill or in general?
In general.
Oh.
I had a Mug Club to the Downtown Founders Brewery for their grand opening and downtown Detroit, and I never used it. And like 3 months after it expired, I went and grabbed my glass and proceeded to accidentally, and this is truthfully, break the glass within a matter of like 6 hours. And I'm like, oh, well, that was money spent, I guess. I love breweries that have releases, and I think that when breweries do have these releases, I don't feel a need to try the beer anymore. Like I remember having that FOMO, like not wanting to miss. Like I remember a Wednesday when the a bar in Ferndale was tapping CBS at like 2 p.m.
Public House.
Yeah, Public House. And I remember bolting out of my apartment in Detroit, going up to Public House just so I could have a taste of it. And it was a fine beer, but then like now I can get CBS anywhere. And I'm like, all right, well, that was kind of worthless to try it. Plus, as I, there's just so much good beer out there these days that I don't feel the need to. Like, I'd rather just go to a brewery and whatever they have. Like, there are times where I want to.
Like BCBS, that was the only barrel-aged stout out there.
Well, that and Dragon's Milk.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But that was back when Dragon's Milk was just Dragon's Milk. There wasn't any variants. There wasn't any additions or anything like that. in Southeast Michigan, obviously you have the 12 Days of Milkshake Stout or Flying Buffalo now, which Flying Buffalo gets released before Black Friday. So the choices for beer is fairly simplistic. But now for me, like if it's a specific style, like a good style release, I might try to go get it. Like when the Fat King over at Loaded Dice, like that's not a barrel aged stout, so I'm like, all right, well, I'll go try that and give that a shot, just because I feel like it's a little bit different and it's not just your standard barrel age. Because I mean, I'm going to be honest, I'm drinking this and it's not bad. It honestly just kind of tastes like every barrel aged stout out there these days.
Well, the problem with barrel aged stouts, like this one's good. This doesn't have any. Well, I mean, there is coffee and Speedway, so I guess I should stop there. The problem is you can't get too many barrel aged stouts without adjuncts these days. Outside of BCBS and, Dragon's Milk, they all seem to have something in them.
Does Narwhal?
I think a lot of them.
Aged?
There is a barrel.
There's a barrel aged narwhal. I don't know if it's both. Sorry, Wendy, what were you saying?
I think a lot of them have like that standard. This is our barrel aged stout. That is like. I'm trying to think of an example. So I was at a brewery in Alabama this past week, and they had El Gordo was their barrel aged stout, and then they had a bunch of different variants like BCBS. So I brought them home.
Well, here in Michigan, Flying Buffalo has the standard variation and then all of the extra variations that are out there. And it gets to a point where you're almost better off just making a regular beer with those adjuncts. Like I don't necessarily need to have a 16% beer now. Like I'm looking at the most recent Flying Buffalo, like bourbon barrel aged chocolate drizzle cannoli. Like
that's what it is.
That's one of them. There's
You're
also
not making that up.
No, I'm not. That was a 2023 variant of Flying Buffalo.
Remember when there was Deconstructed Bomb? And maybe it came back. I don't know. But like Prairie did their Deconstructed Bomb. It was a 4-pack of the 4 flavors. I think one was plain, just barrel aged stout that came in the bomb. And so you had 4, I guess there were 12-ounce cans of this thing, or maybe they were bottles. I can't remember. It's been too long. But in theory, you could pour them all together and you'd have a great big bomb again.
I mean, what that probably cost like $112 the way they price their beer.
I don't recall Prairie being too overly expensive in comparison to other beers.
I mean, you'll pay $12-13 for a 12-ounce versus, the pint of this one, which was the same.
Yeah, Speedway, we get AleSmith here in Michigan now, and I just haven't necessarily had a chance to do too much about it. But looking at the others, like there's obviously other 2023 flavors, I'm guessing, with Flying Buffalo, but according to Untappd, there is also like a churro flavor and then the regular flavor. Like, I don't know. I know I'm the curmudgeon when it comes to all these fucking adjuncts in beer, but kind of like with Fat King, sometimes I don't mind the adjuncts, but I don't need 18% beer or whatever this is. God forbid. I don't know what I'm drinking percentage wise for this beer.
I wish there was a way I could put a "Get Off My Lawn" sign right across 10 right now. I have to figure out how to do that for next show.
I mean, I could probably figure it out. Yeah, 14%. Like, I don't need I'd rather just have a beer, like just a stout with the adjuncts if I want the adjuncts. I don't necessarily always need a barrel-aged beer. Bats McGee over on our twitch.tv/BetterOnDraft. The cannoli Flying Buffalo was delicious. So, Dan, maybe you'll have to seek it out when you're back in Michigan one day.
Yeah, probably not, but
I mean, you'll probably pour a little bit, have a little bit, and then I'll have to pour the rest out, like I've done with every Flying Buffalo that you've opened.
Yeah, that's true.
My family doesn't have too much in the realm of alcohol traditions. There's nothing really from like Bloody Marys, like Dan says. We don't have beer shares. Like the kids just kind of bring their own booze, and that's it. The only thing is my godfather, I always buy a Fit the Crown for Christmas. That's what he wants, and that's what he gets. Like he's the easiest person to shop for. I ain't gotta buy anything crazy. I just buy a Fit the Crown, a thing of jelly beans, and it has to be the Jelly Belly. You talk about curmudgeon. He's like, I don't want any of these fancy jelly beans. I want the regular Jelly Belly jelly beans. That's it. And I'm like, all right, that's easy to shop for. So that's the closest that comes.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that's the closest we have to an alcoholic tradition within my family is just the little, my gift to him every year.
My family doesn't even drink when they get together.
Do they fight if they do?
My sister and her husband don't drink, so I don't tend to take beer there because they don't. So out of respect to them, I tend to not do that. If we do stuff at my house, I'll have a beer and I'll offer it to other people and they'll drink it. But for the most part, my family doesn't drink when they get together.
Except for you. You're like, good, more for me, because I would do the exact same thing.
Yeah. If we're at my house, I will, but I don't take it if I'm going to their house.
Oh, gotcha. You don't want to be that person. You're like, yeah, just gonna have a few beers.
No, it's just they don't, so there's really no reason for me to do it. And plus, I'm usually the one driving Graham, so.
Oh, that's fair. So fun, talking about that. Last summer, I went to a wedding here of some people I know. And we went over to their house after the rehearsal, and the bride of the wedding said, like, yeah, you guys can bring beer over, do whatever you want. Saying this too, and we know that the person she was marrying was an alcoholic. We show up, you only want only two people drinking, like going hard. It's like, oh, why didn't anyone tell me that there wasn't going to be anyone else drinking at this? I was like, whatever, just kick back, like I don't care. So fun times.
I think unless you're dealing with someone that might be like recovering and you drinking might be a trigger to them, and out of respect, you don't need to drink. But I've had no issues being the only person like drinking at an event or a party or something like that. Like, all right, I'm not bringing 14 ounce or 14% barrel aged beers. I'm just bringing like a 6-pack of Bell's Amber or something somewhere, or even just a few tall boys of Miller Lite. Like, I don't care. I just want to have a few beers and enjoy the company of everyone. But
the other side of that, when I'm the driver, I don't have a problem not drinking at a party where there's booze around either.
No, at that point, if I want to, I just go to Total Wine and grab NA beer too. Like I was the DD for a Halloween party a couple years ago, and I wanted to drink because these guys were. If this sentence makes sense, I hope it does, especially to the people listening. But it was everybody has kids, and they all found babysitters that night. Like that's how wild this party was with the amount of alcohol and intoxication. And I was one of maybe 2 or 3 sober people there that night. And it was a hoot, to say the least, trying to just keep my mind straight, like figuring stuff out. Like I'm hiding in the basement because I'm on a different level. Like they are on six advanced levels of intoxication. I'm just sitting there like, I don't know what to do.
Are you making up a fake party to talk about when you were in high school right now?
No, I drank when I was in high school.
Oh, no, there's a specific party I'm talking about.
I still drank that night, just not as much as other people.
Okay.
That's
just making sure.
Dan's referencing, and like I don't know about your high school parties that everyone had, but my high school parties were just your basic, house party, parents at home, so we have booze and we're just drinking booze. And there was a kid who polished a pint of 151 as if it was fucking.
It was a fifth.
Yeah, in so fast. And one of the scariest things ever, because we had to like call to get his parents to pick him up, because this dude was about 350 and like 6'4", and there wasn't any move in him.
I don't think they make 151 anymore.
Bacardi doesn't. Don Q still does.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. It still exists out there.
Yeah.
The initial like Bacardi 151 is no longer, but there are 151 proof rums that are out there. I'm sure actually our rum expert who's in the chat right now, Bill, could probably name all the ones that still exist. As he's an actual professional rum drinker, taste tester, judge kind of person. So I know he knows his way around some rum. Wendy, how was your trip? What did you do?
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. We hit 15 breweries in 5 different states. Graham tried beer at 3 of them. Her face was like this for almost all of them. She did like the Belgian triple. She said it tasted like bubblegum. Go figure.
All right.
But yeah, that's pretty much what we did. We just kind of hung out and spent some time with my family. I made sure that I did all of my advent calendar TikToks. Man, that's a lot of Pilsner. That's all I have to say.
Oh, Lord.
I cannot wait for this advent calendar to be over with. I like it. I like beer flavored beer. I can't take another Helles.
Yeah, that seems a little
It's
cheap to go that route. I don't like that. Ken,
I mean,
didn't you do?
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Wendy. Sorry.
Go ahead and ask your question.
Oh, I was gonna say, Ken, didn't you do a Japanese whiskey advent calendar before?
I did. I actually, you might be able to see over my shoulder, there is still 2 bottles left. Because there are 2 of those bottles. The 1 ounce dram that's in them is market value, like bar value. If you went to a bar and got it, they're like $75 pours
For like an ounce.
Yeah. So those, like the other ones, like I kind of drank. I saved the few that I knew were going to be high value to save to share with someone.
That's fair.
So like in July, I had a buddy come over who he made the mistake to tell me. First of all, I didn't drive up there. So then he made the mistake of saying, my beer is your beer. And this guy had Dark Lords and so many amazing beers, and I was cracking them open and drinking them as if I didn't have to drive, because I didn't. And sure as shit, like I think they tallied it up, and I drank like $150 worth of beer.
Oh well.
So at one point, this was a while ago, I gave him a 4-pack of KBS, like a 4-year vert that I had just sitting around. I got his wife, there's a beer from Founders that she loves. It was like Big Luscious or something like that. So I had like a couple bottles of those, and then I was like, all right, that's the final payback. It is doing that. All right. So Gordon Barba on our YouTube. So jealous. That'd be awesome to do, referencing Wendy's trips, which we'll go back to in just a minute. Bill in the Facebook chat, Don Q Cruzan is still being made, Hamilton, Lemon Heart, and one from Grenada that I can't remember the name of. So those are the ones that are still making 151. So there's a lot of 151 choices out there. You could do a 151 flight.
Yeah,
Your heart.
You can.
I don't know if you'd be able to taste that last one.
He figured it out. River Antoine Estate. And then finally on our Twitch page, Gordzilla says, so jealous, would love to travel to all those breweries, Wendy. Well, you went to 15. Give us some highlights. What states were you in? What breweries did you go to? How many flights did you have?
So we started with Country Boy in Kentucky because I had never been there. That was, they had a crazy ton of different styles on tap. It was like 30 some beers that they had on tap, beers and ciders, a wide variety. It was really awesome. Unfortunately, that was a lunch stop, so I had to take some home with me because I could only do a flight.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I want to do more of these right now, but I couldn't because I had to drive. Some of the other ones, I actually took a day trip once we got to Alabama. I went and spent the night in Athens, Georgia. so that I could go to Creature Comfort. And we did their beer trail there. That was awesome. They have 6 breweries on their beer trail that are all different styles, and the beer was amazing. One place was doing karaoke. Now, if you know me, I am not a karaoke fan at all. I hate it. It literally is like pure hell for me. This was the most fun karaoke I have ever seen. There was a guy there that was doing like country songs as like screamo metal songs. It was so awesome. Like he did Miranda Lambert's the Hydra Crazy. I don't know what that one's called, but all I remember is that particular line in it. It was the best version I'd ever heard of it. Like they were just playing awesome songs. Like we didn't even want to leave, but we were on a time limit because we had hit 6 breweries in 24 hours. So Creature Comfort was awesome. They have so many more beers than the ones that I've been introduced to in other parts of the state there. Terrapin in Athens was really awesome. I actually am hoping that we can get them on the show because they are doing some really awesome things. They have the best marketing plan I've ever seen in my life too, because they've got their little logo with a state outline for every state that they're in, and they're in like 6 or 7 states. So to me, I'm like, well, damn it. Now I want to go and get one from all the different states. So I just thought that was really cool. I'm like, that's brilliant marketing, in my opinion.
Yeah, Terrapin entered Michigan. I believe they were in as recent as 2021 because I remember them being at the Jackson Beer Festival that myself and our editor went to. And I know they pulled out of Michigan, so they're no longer in Michigan, but I'm pretty sure they're a 10th and Blake company, so they're Molson Coors. So we might be able to see them sometime soon, or at least maybe try to get something done with Atwater here, which is also a Molson Coors company.
So we'll talk about that later. I also went to a place called Good People Brewing. That was the El Gordo in Alabama. That place was amazing. Their beer was so good. My dad didn't want to leave. He actually wanted me. That's where I paid for the 4-pack of the variants, which was way more than I planned on paying for beer there. And he almost asked me, he's like, I kind of want to ask you to leave one of those bottles with me. He's like, but you traveled a really long way to get them. So I gave him other beer.
I have had 3 from Good People. I was down in Alabama a long time ago, but yeah, I had 3 from them.
They're really
I liked
good.
them. Yeah.
And then there was another brewery in Alabama called True Story Brewing, which, I went because I say true story all the time. So that brought it to my attention. But they are a music venue, and they have once a week they have jazz. They have all these different metal concerts. Like it was really cool. I really like that brewery too. But they only had 1 beer of theirs on tap, and everything else was guest beers. So that was kind of disappointing, but the venue was awesome. I would have been there all the time. So, I mean, it was really cool. There was a lot of different breweries that I saw. We did a light show in Alabama at their racetrack that was really cool. That was set to music, but you didn't realize it was set to music until you got like halfway through, and you could see like the whole thing all at once changing with the music. That was really cool. That's what I did on my trip. I drank beer and we watched a lot of holiday movies.
Oh, the good old Hallmark channel.
No, they don't have Hallmark. We had to do everything on Netflix because where they're at, they didn't have cable.
I'm trying to think there's definitely plenty of those Hallmark type movies though that sprinkle into Hulu and Netflix and Peacock and all those other. I don't know who owns the Hallmark channel these days, but speaking of like holiday movies, we just watched the movie Silent Night with Joel Kinnaman, and It's the second movie in 2023 I've watched that has no dialogue.
What?
And no dialogue the entire movie. And this movie is why that's a great question. For this one, it's because he can't talk. He got shot in the throat.
Okay.
So that's why he can't talk. I don't know why all the people he killed couldn't talk, or why Kid Cudi, who plays the cop, couldn't talk. I guess they didn't like.
Let's be clear for the people out there. So this isn't the 2012 classic Silent Night that has the Santa Claus going around killing people.
Correct. Right? No, this is
we're not talking about the same movie.
2023 Silent Night starring Joel Kinnaman and Kid Cudi.
We do not watch the same Christmas movies.
Dan, why don't you tell me about the Killer Santa Claus?
Oh, well, there's that one's good. I'm trying to remember the name of the one that has the robot killer Santa, which is even more ridiculous. In fact, I watched it the other day, not on the right computer. I still have it on uTorrent. But yeah, there's a lot of good, horror Christmas movies. God, there's another one that just came out this year too, and I can't even think of the name of it.
Justin Long just came out with one. He's apparently having a renaissance of horror flick.
Those are the only good Christmas movies. In fact, I'm watching the trailer from Silent Night 2012, and Santa electrocuted someone with Christmas lights, like an electric chair. See, this is good Christmas. Everyone's like, yeah, sure.
There's one that came out last year called Violent Night.
That's what I'm thinking of. Was it last year?
Yeah, that's the one with oh my god, the guy from David Harbour. David Harbour's in it, John Leguizamo's in it. I really couldn't tell you the rest of the cast, but it's like Santa because David Harbour plays the actual Santa, and they're like a family gets like kidnapped. And they're trying to be exploited for their money, and Santa saves the day. And there's like a whole homage to Home Alone in the thing. From what I remember, we watched that last year for sure. I haven't seen the horror. Have you seen the horror Thanksgiving movie that came out this year?
You mean Thanksgiving? Oh, never mind. I'm thinking of Halloween. No, there's a horror Thanksgiving movie.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
It just came out this year. It's called Thanksgiving. It's not campy like Thanksgiving is with the murderous turkey. I just also learned that there's at least 2 sequels to that movie too that I did not know about that I need to go watch. But yeah, there's like a Thanksgiving horror movie that came out too. There's a lot of new horror that's coming out that, for all of the repeats that we're getting with like the Child's Play TV show and Scream 6 and the continuation of the Conjuring universe, like we're still getting a decent amount of horror flicks out there that's new and interesting. Like Old was pretty good. Truth or Dare was good. The new Goosebumps show was pretty good. If you haven't watched that, that's on Hulu, I think.
The new Saw movie was pretty good.
I'm going to be honest. Somebody said Spiral. Are you talking about Spiral or Saw X?
No, Saw X, yeah. Spiral's really good too.
Somebody told me to watch Spiral. It's not as, in the term I always use, murder porny as the other Saw movies are.
Yeah, it's totally worth it. And it's a different story. So it is kind of disconnected from the other ones.
I started it and like 3 minutes in and something fucking awful is happening. And I'm like, this is not for me.
That happens in every Saw movie though, no matter what it is. So.
But that's the thing though, is that I think I've passed the phase of wanting to watch that. Like I thought Hostel was an awesome movie and I probably would never want to watch it again because
I also need this get off my lawn thing to go across, Ken, because you're on a streak tonight, man.
Because my preferences change as I've gotten older. What was that, Wendy?
I've never seen a single Saw movie.
Oh, they're worth watching. They're pretty good.
I have seen a couple of Hostels.
I watched the first Hostel, and then I remember the beginning of the second Hostel, which like kind of finishes the first one and then goes off into its own story. It was a really interesting movie, an interesting concept, but I think at some point it got kind of repetitive. And I know it kind of goes from, what's his name? John something, the main protagonist, to that one girl that he saves turning into an actual villain.
Well, that's the fun thing about Saw X, that you actually bring that up. This actually happens between Saw 1 and 2. Or no, actually just prior to Saw 1, I believe, because they're both still alive. I don't want to spoil anything, even though it came out a while ago, but they've done a lot of interesting concepts with that. I mean, was it 3 and 4 that were actually happening at the same time? Either 3 or 4 or 4 and 5. You find out at the end of the second one, they were actually both happening simultaneously.
Well, the same thing happened to me with the Final Destination series. Like, I watched like the first 2, maybe even 3, and that was it. Like, I'm like, all right, well, this is kind of it's the exact same movie over and over and over again, just different ways to die and different ways to like cheat death. Like, what did they learn this time? Of course, I'm still like the scarred for life. I don't know about you guys, but like getting behind a log truck on a freeway, still like one of the scariest things ever.
Fucking trains.
Like,
I'll be 3 people back from trains, 3 cars back if I'm the first person on a train. And if people honk at me, I'll just be like, go around. I don't even care. Go around. Not doing it. I saw that guy get decapitated. We're not doing it.
That was Stifler, Sean William Scott.
Yeah,
I remember that exactly. the exact part. But you know, we're kind of talking about how these movies, Saw X, Final Destination, like 5 or 6 came out. Like, there's still a lot of good new horror out there that I've been enjoying. I mean, I'm kind of a horror guy, minus the murder gore porn, the get off my lawn versions of.
So you're more of a killer horror. Clowns and out from outer space kind of horror.
I actually have never watched that movie.
It's worth it just for the laughs.
Are you more into the jump scares than the gore part of it?
I like thriller and
like the song, the music video.
Yes, like the song and the music video. Thriller, monster. I'm always good for a good killer monster movie. Like, even if it's campy, great. I don't care. If it tries to be real and good, like Cloverfield, you know, like when we're on like Tremors 7 or 8 right now, like that was such a funny,
I'll tell you
funny one to
Tremors
finish.
About the worms?
Yeah, the graboids, the underground giant worms that come up and eat you. They hunt by sound.
What was the one with Betty White and the alligator?
Lake Placid?
Yeah. That one was, I like that one.
I'll tell you, you mentioned Cloverfield. That is the biggest fail that had so much potential, I think, as far as movies go.
I enjoyed the sequel with John Goodman, the 10 Cloverfield Lane. I think that was like not supposed to be a sequel, and they turned it into one.
Yeah, and it really wasn't until the very end. You know, the whole thing, it was weird, but I think I like that one the most too, because he was really good in that.
Somebody in the chat said that they're waiting for the sequel to the 1992 classic Dead Alive. I've never heard of it, but it's got a 89% on Rotten Tomatoes. So,
right up your alley.
Peter Jackson. I have no idea. What this is. So,
are we ever going to get a sequel to that awesome movie from 1988 called They Live with our boy Roddy Piper?
Is that the one with the that's supposed to be like Duke Nukem character?
Yeah, and he's like, I'm here to kick ass and chew bubblegum.
Yeah. I don't even think I've seen that. I've seen plenty of like videos and clips from it on, you know, social media, YouTube, etc. But I don't think I've ever actually seen that movie. I mean, as I mentioned, are you all 3 of you horror buffs? You're awfully quiet, Rob. Not a big.
I am not a horror buff. I mean, they're fine, but I would never pick a horror movie.
So I'm
probably
a big
watch when it was on.
like horror video games, I'm all about. I don't really watch a lot of movies. Like I love the Saw movies, but horror games, like Dead by Daylight, we've played that religiously. Alan Wake 2 that just came out. There's a lot of great horror games out there if you like that kind of thing that I think are actually better than a lot of movies in most ways.
What exactly makes it a horror game?
The setting, the same type of setting as a movie. Like Dead by Daylight, you're getting chased by one of the killers, whether it be, is it Leatherface that they put in there, Michael Myers, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Alan Wake, I'm not going to go into spoiling it because Alan Wake 2 is still pretty new. Yeah. So, but it's an entire horror story about getting trapped somewhere, and go read the synopsis. Definitely if you want to take a look, but it's a great horror movie or horror game.
Yeah. I stopped watching horror movies when I stopped helping put haunted houses together.
Haunted houses are fun.
I mean, for those
They
who
are
can go
fun.
through them.
I don't need to put them together anymore, so I don't need to do the research. So I don't watch, like, Jaws is as horror as it gets for me.
I mean, that's a monster movie.
Yeah.
There was, like, as Dan said, Dead by Daylight, is definitely a lot of fun. There was a game that I loved playing because I love, like, horror mystery games. Like Emily Wants to Play was a really good one. The issue is that there's a lot of indie trash horror movie games that are just there to like give you the jump scare. There is one that's pretty cool that it's tied to your microphone. And you're not supposed to scream or make a sound or anything like that, and it like triggers your microphone, and that's how you die, is you make too much noise.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It just came out not too long ago. I don't know the name of it, but I've seen plenty of it on, because I watch a lot of creators that play Dead by Daylight. They'll get into some other horror genre type games themselves. But the Walking Dead Telltale, Wendy, you'd probably like that. It's not horror as much as it's very good story based, and it's decision making, game altering events. So there's not really much where you got to like time a specific jump to do something crazy. Like you just kind of go through the game and make decisions, and the game plays through. Kind of like Life. Oh my God, what's the Life is Good? Life is not Life of Pi.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I can't think of it though.
It's the one with the young high school girl protagonist, and she has like a power or something like that. Man, I am brain fogging today. That's for sure. Life is Strange.
That's it. Yeah,
that's it. But yeah, another one of those games it's a horror game, kind of like a edge of your seat thriller, but it's more based on the reactions that you make. Like, because you pissed off this character earlier in the game, this character is now going to screw you over, 6 scenes later.
Yeah,
sounds like Baldur's Gate 3.
I will read horror. Stephen King was one of my favorite authors since I was like junior high. I remember, I think I was in like 7th or 8th grade the first time I read Pet Sematary. Like I was young. It was very early for that type of material. And I like mystery, suspense, thrillers, that kind of stuff. But for movies, one, I don't get a lot of time to watch movies without Graham. And she's not about any type of horror or gore at all.
I could see that.
So I don't know. I think it's weird that I don't like movies like that, but I'll read that book every day.
Bill in the chat saying the last movie he watched in that style was The Serpent and the Rainbow back in 1989. Not
even a little while. Ken wasn't even born yet.
Hey, I was born. Thank you.
Were you like 2?
Those 3.
Whatever.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Pet Sematary. That's another movie that just had a new version of it that just came out on Paramount, I think. So that came out
on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, it might have been on Paramount Plus. There is a new series, and I'll leave it with this because we're about to go into our break. We will be back for those listening live at about 8:25 p.m. Eastern. But like Paranormal Activity, that's basically where my like what I like in a movie, like a little jump scare, a little like keep you on your edge of your seat. Is something going to happen? Is nothing going to happen? What's going on? What's the story? Why is the demon there? What's happened? And I remember, I think it was number 2, which had the demon and the Kinect was on, like the Xbox Kinect, and the demon shadow was like shown through the Xbox Kinect, like somebody was walking through, but you couldn't see somebody walk through. But they're like the found footage phenomenon, which is a documentary that just came out, really did a great job of talking about how the found footage movie style came about, from Blair Witch to Paranormal Activity to I think it's called Megan is Missing, which is that's a rough watch for anyone. Don't go watch that if you don't have to.
So you know what? You brought up the found footage thing. I'll drop this real quick. I'm sure you've seen it, Ken, but the Backrooms, the original creator of it, that's absolutely amazing. If you like found footage stuff.
Is that the Italian flick or is that something else? No,
it's on YouTube. Look it up. People listening will probably know, but it's really good if you like found footage type things.
I do. There was because they talk about Bruce Willis's Bruce Willis's commentary during an interview, saying that how, as he's getting interviewed, he said sooner or later some kid in a school, like a movie school, is going to figure out a way to make a movie with this camera for like $10,000 and blow us out of the water and make a shit ton of money. And then like that's like the start of the documentary, and then it goes to the Blair Witch Project and talks about all the Blair Witch Project stuff. This is Better on Draft. Beer and movies apparently today, horror movies. That is going to do it for this episode. Have a great holiday. Think about starting a tradition with your family, maybe a specific tradition. Maybe you get a new bottle of beer or a new fifth of whiskey, something to try for the family as you guys are together. Everyone gets a little dram and enjoys it. But that is going to do it for this episode 336. We will be back, though, 8:25 p.m. Eastern, as we go over the craft beer news. That is going to do it for myself, Wendy, Rob, and Dan. Thank you so much for joining us live, of course, on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, Kick. And no matter what you think of your beer, we think it's Better on Draft. Have a good night.
Cheers.